Hi families, my name is Nikki Mitchell and I have had the pleasure for the last 12 years of sharing a family holiday tradition with the children at Marymount Elementary. My son is part of Marymount School System, Benny Mitchell. He started as a kindergartner, which was the first year we started talking about this tradition with everybody in the classrooms at around kindergarten or first grade. And so over the years, you may have heard your child come home and say, some lady with candles on her head came into our classroom and talked about this other woman with candles on her head. And sometimes you don't get the whole story. So rather than have you watch the entire video, which is how we did it this year with some of our restrictions, I thought I'd make a condensed version of it to share the legend of Santa Lucia, which is a holiday tradition we celebrate in our family based on my Swedish heritage. So I'm going to go ahead and keep the candles on my head so you can have the same perspective as your kids. I actually read them a story called Lucia Morning in Sweden. So they have the chance to see it from a family perspective, what they actually do in the houses. So this is the legend of Santa Lucia. The story of Santa Lucia, the symbol of light amid the darkness for Sweden, has many different versions. Although her feast day is celebrated on December 13th in Sweden, she was born far away in southern Italy in the 3rd century AD. It is said that she became a Christian after seeing her mother miraculously healed, and she made a vow never to marry and to give the money that would have been her dowry to the poor. She refused to marry the man her family had chosen for her, and some say he denounced her for her faith and was responsible for having her put to death. She died a martyr's death in 303 AD and was declared a saint. She is Santa Lucia to the Italians, Sancta Lucia to the Swedes, and Saint Lucia or Saint Lucy to all English speakers. How the story of Lucia came to be such an important part of Swedish culture is somewhat of a mystery. Did the Vikings know of her and brought the legend into the north? Did the monks and priests tell of her martyrdom? Of course, Sweden was once a Roman Catholic country, and the stories of the saints were often told and retold in the Catholic religion. However, Sweden has been Lutheran for hundreds of years. It is not clear how the saint from Sicily became Sweden's beacon of light during the darkest period of the year. Though one legend, popular among Swedish Americans, tells of a woman dressed in white, standing in the bow of a boat crossing Lake Vänern. She was bringing food to the people of Värmland who were dying of hunger during a famine many years ago. They say she wore a wreath in her hair, crowned with a ring of lighted candles. To this day, December 13th is one of the high points of the Christmas season, and candles are lit all over Sweden to bear light against the darkness, as Lucia did. Early in the morning of December 13th, the oldest daughter in a family in Sweden has the privilege of being Lucia, wearing a long white gown sashed in red and a wreath of lingonberry leaves on her hair. Candles, now usually run on batteries, are set into the wreath. Her sisters wear white gowns with tinsel in their hair and around their waists. Boys in the family wear tall pointed hats with stars on them. The Star Boys are traditionally associated with the 3 wise men. The children awaken their parents and offer them coffee, saffron-flavored buns called lussekaker, and ginger snaps called pepparkakor. Lucia programs are also held in schools, businesses, and at public gatherings. That's the summarized version of Lucia. I share with your children my Kirsten American Girl doll, who actually is in the traditional gear or wear of a Santa Lucia. So you can see the white gown, the red sash at her waist, and then she's got her tray of lussekaker buns and her wreath in her hair just like mine. When I was younger, I actually had real candles in my hair. And you couldn't move your head because the wax would drip onto your hair and it was very painful and hot. So I'm very grateful for battery operated lights. We also used to have a real candle that we'd walk into the rooms with. So now we use a battery operated candle after an unfortunate incident with a dropped candle and a comforter. So if you hear your kids asking, on December 13th, or as the start of the Christmas season, if they could have a song, or if they could bring in a candle to wake you up, or if they could have peppercocker, which is like a gingerbread cookie. I just wanted you to know where it came from, what the tradition was about. Feel free to ask me any questions or send them to the teacher, and I'd be happy to share. We do try to keep a version of it going, which usually means waking my family up at about 5 o'clock in the morning. And we share a little gift. So there's usually a small gift, just something small to kick off our Christmas season. It could be a piece of candy or chocolate, or something more in the Christmas spirit. So with that, I wanted to at least make a short video so you would understand what was happening in the classroom, and you can kind of put together the stories that you hear. We elect a Lucia in the classroom each year based upon the oldest child in the classroom. So if your child was honored as a Lucia, that would be why, because they were the oldest one of the group who gets to be the Lucia. And then the remaining girls and boys were all their attendants or their star boys using the crafts that they made in the classroom that day. So thank you for joining me and sharing my tradition all of these years. And I appreciate that I've been able to share it all with your children. I hope you can join me in sharing your holiday traditions, not only with your family, but share it with the rest of the class. The technology nowadays allows us to do this via YouTube. So if you ever get the chance to tape yourself and share a little bit about it, it's very valuable for your children. Thank you. It was nice to meet you all, and happy Santa Lucia.